So apparently, Donald Trump has ordered the National Guard to Los Angeles. It's all kicking off. Let's have a look.
Hello, I'm Nicky Schiller. Welcome to the programme. We start this out in Los Angeles.
It's like Beavis Hall Butthead have finally got their act together.
President Trump has ordered 2,000 National Guards into the city to counter escalating protests in a predominantly Hispanic district of the Californian city. It comes after a second day of clashes between residents of Paramount and border immigration officers trying to implement President Trump's policy to deport unauthorized migrants. Now, federal ICE agents used tear gas, flashbangs and batons to disperse the protesters. The White
This is absolute crazy stuff. Which flags are those? Certainly not the US flags. And I thought these people were protesting about staying in America, the country of the land and the free, the home of the brave.
House Border Policy Chief has gone to Los Angeles to personally supervise the operation, during which more than 40 migrants were arrested on Saturday. He warned that there would be zero tolerance of any violence or damage to private property. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, said ICE was sowing terror in America's second largest city. Well,
I don't get that. Don't get why you're waving flags for a different country whilst protesting the fact that people are being deported from America. Not this one, obviously. I'm in England, but crazy world we're living in.
Announcing the order deploying the National Guard, the White House said the administration has a zero-tolerance policy for criminal behaviour and violence, especially when that violence is aimed at law enforcement officers trying to do their jobs. These criminals will be arrested and swiftly brought to justice. The Commander-in-Chief will ensure the laws of the United States are executed fully and completely.
I love the fact that there's a massive call for ICE agents to take off their balaclavas and reveal their identities. And even some politicians have come out saying we should be telling everyone who these people are and we'll find out who they are. But the protesters are fine covering their faces because they believe in everything that they're doing. Absolutely.
I want to show you some of the latest pictures from Los Angeles, and they come in the last hour. They show law enforcement officers wearing protective equipment, including helmets, coming out of the federal detention centre. Now, several of them fire tear gas towards the protesters. And it also appears that some form of explosive stun projectiles, which are often described as flashbangs, are thrown. Now, this came after the LAPD issued dispersal orders in some parts of the city. They had said that the use of less lethal munitions had been authorised, saying they can cause pain and discomfort. Well, the protesters then did seem to pull back, and then law enforcement officers formed a line and they walked down the centre of the road. You can still see those bangs going off, clearing the area. They were trying to establish a cordon. More tear gas and bang projectiles were thrown. Now, officers say multiple people have been detained for failing to disperse after multiple warnings. Well,
The world's gone mad. The world has gone absolutely mad. It really has. I mean, you look at scenes like that and you think that might be something like RoboCop or another dystopian future that you could see in the movies, but the world is going crazy.
In the last half an hour, President Trump has posted on his Truth Social platform. Let me read to you what he said. He said, "Great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles. After 2 days of violence, clashes and unrest, we have an incompetent governor and mayor who were, as usual, just look at how they handled the fires, and now they're very slow permitting disaster. Federal permitting is complete, unable to handle the task." He goes on to say these radical left protests by instigators and often paid troublemakers will not be tolerated.
This guy is really struggling with some of his words.
He also says, from now on, March.
And that's coming from me. You know, which is hypocritical.
Masks will not be allowed to be worn at protests. What do these people have to hide and why, he says. Again, thank you to the National Guard for a job well done.
Yeah, I mean, and then people are going to jump on the bandwagon and saying, well, ICE officers are wearing masks. What have they got to hide? They've got to hide the fact that people are going to show up at their homes and threaten the kids and the families and threaten basically burn the houses down. That's what they're hiding. The protesters, if you absolutely believe in everything that you're doing, then why hide your face? We all know why.
At the moment can't yet verify whether the National Guard have actually deployed to LA. But earlier, one of the protesters described why they had come out onto the streets.
Purpose was to peacefully tell them to not take our people. We overheard, it's been shared, that ICE had came to our towns. We're just here living, working. They stopped at Home Depot where they know that people are undocumented. So us as a community have came here to try to make peace so that they don't make families separate one another. And what did they do? They just started to attack us. We were peaceful, and all of a sudden they started throwing bombs at us. I know a lot of us just unified together on the other side to not let the bus that was coming in with all the police, and then instead of them peacefully telling us to back up, they just started pepper spraying us. There's a lot of women out there that have pepper spray.
Well, let's put...
Yeah, very peaceful protest. Very, very peaceful from what I've seen.
The area.
And is COVID still a thing? Because I'm not sure why she's wearing the mask.
Where this is happening into a little context for you. Now, Los Angeles, of course, is a huge sprawling city with many different districts, with some of them predominantly populated by particular communities. Now, the Paramount district is about 15 miles inland from the Pacific Ocean and its beaches, and even further from areas like downtown LA, Santa Monica and Beverly Hills. It is a predominantly Latino district, and despite the name, Hollywood's Paramount Studios are located more than 20 miles away. Well, our reporter in Los Angeles is Reagan Morris. She brought us this update.
The area I am, there's a very large law enforcement presence. A lot of the protesters have either dispersed or moved on to other areas, but we can still hear flashbangs going off in the distance, and there were just some fireworks going off, one of the neighbors setting them off. But
that helmet is not doing anything for her. I'm sorry.
It's still quite tense, and just about an hour ago we were walking from one area to another and somebody threw a Molotov cocktail over the fence where we were, and the LA County sheriffs came rushing out. The guy's leg, actually, their pants caught on fire briefly as he tried to stamp it out, and they were trying to find out who was throwing Molotov cocktails at them. A flashbang accidentally went off next to the police, which made a lot of the protesters laugh, but then they just came in aggressively and moved people out. But we can hear it's still going on, and it moves around. And we're near an area where earlier today, a few hours ago, there was a very large presence of ICE agents, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, in unmarked cars. And we've been told by some locals that there are factories around here where some migrants are still locked inside, afraid to come out. And that's something we've heard not just over the last few days in LA County, but over the last few months, that a lot of immigrants who do not have legal documents to live here are living in fear, very real fear of being deported.
Now, LA...
You would live in fear because you've committed a crime being in a country that you weren't legally supposed to be in, and you stayed in that country illegally. You don't have the necessary papers to say, I am in this country legally. So these people, they're making it out like it's a Nazi regime trying to round up the Jews. It's not. It's not. It's people doing their job, which might be unpalatable to some people. And it's not ideal that families are being torn apart again. I've said it in a different reaction video. But the reality is they're rounding up people who were there illegally. So technically criminals. I'm not saying that they're all used as criminals like loosely, but it's strange how the narrative is being pushed at. You know, they're sitting there in fear of their lives because they're going to be dragged out of there and put up a fence and shot.
Is what's known as a sanctuary city. Just explain what that means.
Well, it's not just LA. Most of California is a sanctuary, and it means that local law enforcement are not meant to cooperate with federal immigration officials. So if an undocumented immigrant, illegal immigrant, was arrested for shoplifting, when they get out of jail, the local authorities are not meant to tell Immigration and Customs Enforcement that, hey, this guy, you can pick him up and deport him, whereas that would happen in most places in Texas.
So basically, the local officials are complicit in allowing a criminal who's committing a crime to commit another crime and not get deported. So you're in there illegally, you then commit a crime, which is another crime on top of the one that you've already committed by being there illegal, and they're saying, don't tell anybody so you don't get deported. But obviously, we'll see you next time you commit another crime.
A lot of lines are being crossed the last few days, though, at least the perception of it, as people see local law enforcement fanned out on the streets after they were called in to help Immigration and Customs federal officials to protect them. But locally, a lot of people just think they blended into one and see it as cooperation and targeting.
I find it hilarious that you've got all these people protesting saying we do not want to be deported from the United States of America. Yeah, they'll wave every flag other than the US flag.
The immigrant community.
How do you think President Trump ordering in the National Guard is likely to go down? We've already heard from Governor Newsom saying that it is inflammatory and will only escalate tensions.
I think that is what the governor has said, and that's what a lot of the local leaders are saying, and people we've spoken to here today, that that would not be well received in a lot of neighborhoods, especially immigrant. This is where I am in Paramount. It's more than 80% Hispanic. It's a very big immigrant community, so it will probably not be very well received. We've heard from our partners at CBS that just in the last hour or so, that Governor Newsom and President Trump spoke on the phone for about 40 minutes. We don't know the contents of that phone call, but maybe something has changed throughout that. We don't know.
And this, of course, is all because of President Trump's policy to deport unauthorized migrants.
Yes, that is part of the policy, whereas California policy is more often to protect migrants, whether they have legal documents or not.
How could that be the policy? We're going to protect you whether you've got documents or not, commit crimes or not. We're going to protect you. Makes no sense, because surely the idea is that you protect the citizens of the country that you're serving.
California is the fourth biggest economy in the world, and a lot of the agriculture sectors in particular, there's a lot of migrants working in those jobs that don't necessarily have legal status in the United States and California, and the economy really relies on them. So they do try and protect law-abiding migrants without proper paper, many of whom pay taxes and go to work every day.
Reagan Morris in Los Angeles. Well, one witness to the protest that has been going on there over the last few hours spoke to a local reporter at the scene about what they had seen.
We were at a stoplight on the other side of Paramount, right? Over there in Alondra. When out of nowhere, in the stop, immigration agents, ICE, all that came, they came dressed up in all their military gear, and they stopped traffic. When they stopped traffic, we started noticing, and I told my girl, that's immigration right there. What they started doing was they went in front of a business, a negocio, and they started raiding it. They started bringing people out in vans. Once they started doing that, that's when everybody knew, what was going on. And everybody was there in the traffic jam. Everybody, right? You're stuck in your car, in your vehicle. When they saw us looking at them doing all that, that's when they started throwing tear gas. Everybody was still in their vehicles. As soon as one of the tear gas.
You said who was behind you?
Behind us, there was a woman and her young daughter. She was around 13. I kept in touch with them, and as we speak, she's in the hospital because the tear gas bomb hit her right in the face. They were right behind us, taking notice that we're not there to protest. We were stuck at the light, right? But we're witnessing everything happening right in front of our eyes. The tear gas explodes. They come out crying out of their vehicle, and they can't breathe. They're literally on the ground. right? I have the video, I have the footage, right?
And so what do you and your girlfriend do at that point?
We get off and we see everybody else getting off to record. Peacefully, we do not throw anything at them. We're not yelling at them. We're just recording what's going on because people deserve to know the truth. This is why you guys are here. This is because, you know, these things need to be documented. This is what they wanted. They wanted people to riot. They wanted the people to start fireworks. They wanted the people to start burning out. Why? Because this is the effect. So they can make us look bad. So they can make us seem that we're the ones causing this, that we started it.
That's Fernando Delgado, a witness to the protest. Well, Rachel Uranga is the immigration reporter at the...
I wonder if they got the footage that he was saying. Because if everyone's got off, get out of the cars and got off the buses and started filming, then you'd have the footage of them basically instigating the clash.
LA Times. She told us about the latest situation.
I'm not saying mainstream media will ever show you that, though. You'll only ever get one side from the mainstream media.
In Los Angeles.
Less than an hour ago, I can still hear some of the shots that were ringing out in downtown Los Angeles. There is some clashes going on in Paramount, which is a largely Hispanic community, working class Latino community in Los Angeles. And there's also another small confrontation in downtown Los Angeles, just outside of the Federal Detention Center, where immigrants who have been picked up in raids this week or at courthouses are being held. Los Angeles is a notoriously blue area, and it has a really heavy immigrant population. While there's people here that do think that if you've overstayed your visa or if you aren't here legally, you should face the law. There's a lot of people out here who support the immigrant community and who are tied to it. And just to
I'm sure some business owners who use their labor would also be supportive, keeping them there.
tell you how
And I'm sure people in general public as well. You know, they've become neighbours, they become friends. You know, they become family members through marriage and things like that. But I don't know. It's just if I went to another country right now, if I went to the USA and I was there illegally, so somehow I got across the border and I stayed there, or even if I flew and I stayed beyond my visa, eventually I'd expect that I was going to get a knock on the door because I'd know I was running the risk that I was going to get arrested for being there illegally and I was going to get deported out of that country. Now, the way that they're doing it might not be the right way. Is there a right way of doing it? I don't know. I think Trump is just lighting a fire. Is basically saying, that's it. We're not doing it. We're not processing people. We're not spending a lot of money processing and then going through the courts and taking it case by case basis. It's just basically round up and deport, round up and deport. And I think that it's obviously to some communities, it's just going to be really it's going to be as disruptive as you can imagine. Is it the wrong thing to do? It might be the right thing to do using the wrong tactics, and it could be the wrong thing to do using the right tactics. I don't know.
deeply embedded California is with this community. It's like 1 out of every 2 children are immigrants. It's a really high number that live and in mixed families. One of the family members has a status that they're not here legally. Los Angeles has turned into ground zero as a test for the limits of Trump's immigration policy. I mean, here, this economy really depends on immigrant labor and on communities that are tied to immigrants. So, the Trump administration.
Again, somebody waving a flag. And it's never the US flag. It's almost like we're going to use this as an excuse to process about something that's nothing to do with people getting deported.
Administration has really had some high profile rates here, and it's really tested people. Some people would say, and some politicians have said it's provoked people. And I think a lot of the politicians are not happy. The local politicians, Newsom certainly, about them sending over the National Guard that they feel sort of an overblown show of force.
Well, it is an overblown show of force, but I don't think going in there like one car with a couple of agents trying to take somebody out of that community for deportation, that wouldn't go down well. We know what would happen. They get swarmed, they get swamped, the car would probably get overturned, they get injured. So if you don't go in en masse in these things, it's going to end badly. And I think what's happening is, because they're showing the force, that force is being reciprocated, and we're ending up with mass protests. But if you look at the protests, you've got the people who would just be, we don't agree with what's going on. That's fine. Peaceful protest, everyone's got a right to it. But those waving the Palestine flags, or, you know, the Free Palestine flags or banners, or I've probably got that completely arsehole about face. I don't know enough about it, to be honest. But why fly the flag of a different country when the whole point of this is that you want to be in a country that apparently you feel you deserve to be part of because you've been there for a number of years and you've been working and you're being integrated into that society? It's not. It's an excuse again for people to be violent and to push protests for a completely separate agenda. And I think it'll get worse. And I think one of the other videos that I reacted to, basically, the border czar said either one of the ICE officers is going to kill somebody, or one of them are going to get killed, and it's going to escalate. And I think he's absolutely right. I think this will get a lot worse before it gets better. But I'll be watching and just hoping that America somehow sees a way through it. See you on the next one.